Can be reached through the Balkan Embassy.
I'm just giving this a test. The screen's back up in but screen's back up now. Still got to tidy a little few things up and put a few more acoustic tiles down the side there. I'm just checking the sound. I might have to do some tuning. I've got to put the microphones up in position close to the screen, because I know what the frequency response looks like on a RTA, on a frequency waterfall, not frequency waterfall, frequency graph. Hello, Barry. Barry's been a bit of a mischief kitty whilst doing all this, and have to put him out the room. Got to hiss at him, get him out the room. Oh, it's okay now, because this is when kitty cats get around, and then you have a disaster, and they get in the way and they knock things over, and you have an even more disaster. Isn't that right, Bear? Magic's been a good boy. Magic's mostly been sleeping on the bed. Oh, speak of the devil. And he will arrive.
Check that it is now 53.4 hours away from Earth. Enterprise is the only Federation starship.
Just go to the computer. Yeah, there we are. Computer.
Our orders.
That's a frequency sweep I did for the center, the JBL compression driver and horn that were all laying on a table in front, and I was testing all these components out and then opening them up, and then cleaning them up because they had some little minor corrosion, probably for where they were kept in storage, I guess. But wow, they all checked out, and with cleaning, I had a weird impedance on one of them, which was the one that's behind the screen in the center. And I thought, okay, just zoom in there, and it's got a little bit of a kink. Which I can adjust. I can EQ. I can adjust that. I can tailor the frequency. I can adjust that. So I've got to put the microphones up in position with the screen, and the screen is going to have an impact on the frequency. So it will be kind of the opposite. It'll be a little bit the opposite, slightly, but not drastic, because that's just how it typically is. But the frequency range is good. I'm pleased with the frequency range on the because nearly all the horns checked out, apart from that little everything else was pretty going where it's supposed to be, going from typically about 500 hertz. But I could retune this with a high pass filter by slotting it in and then bringing it down to maybe just near 600 hertz or something, and then just lower the level down, and then increase the level up a little bit. So I might just get a little bit more out of 400, but I'll have to see. I'll just have to play some films and some sine wave tests, and to see where it can go. But as it is at the moment, they obviously will outweigh on the JBL 2371s that I've been using for several years. But I'm pleased with the high frequency range. It's got a good high frequency range there. whereas the 2371, it had a bit of a dip in the HFs up on the high highs. That's depending if I can hear the high highs, which, you know, I can only just barely hear 16,000 kilohertz a day, which is about there. No, hang on, get my finger right to where I'm looking at, and I'll zoom in. 16 kilohertz would be about there where my finger is pointing, just in between. 17 would be pushing it, but you have to increase level, amplitude level and such, until you can just about hear what is a fundamental sine wave tone, and it would have a kind of pinching effect on your ear due to the increase in the level, but hearing just rolls off. It just naturally rolls off when you're about 16, 17 years old. It just slopes off. It just slopes down a little bit. So that's pretty good frequency response. And the HFs are high sensitivity. 150 program. I think I'll have to check that with the specs on the JBL website, the PDF file. But about 150, which is pretty, you know, loud for dynamic range as such, and they will never probably even see no more than a few watts or volts. If I was measuring it with a voltmeter, they're not going to see a lot. They're there for durability, robustness, clarity, not for sound pressure level dB competition. Oh yeah, I'm just listening to the dialogue panning and such, and there's 5 of them behind the screen, so occasionally we'll engage the 5 screen mode down here. It won't function at the moment because I'm in preset number 2, and I've got to use my Sony SVDS 424 matrix at the moment because my CP200 is got a fault on one of the cards, and I've got to put a new IC circuit. Hopefully it, knock on wood, knock on plastic, knock on wood, it works tomorrow if I fit the new integrated circuits in. I should have my CP200 back up and running fully. It's not a big deal. It's all still work. It's just a few components that have got overloaded with voltage. So it's not a problem. It's had a few little power spikes before in the past, and only a fuse blown, and then put a new fuse back in, no problem. So it's pretty durable, as long as I don't push my luck too much with that. So I'm going to do some testing to see if I can improve, and I'll get the microphones up and see how it looks with a frequency sweep, and then put the microphone, single microphone, back here, and then just move it around and just see how it looks. I probably wouldn't even want to maybe adjust the frequency response. I think I'll just leave it as it is. That frequency response is got smoothing of 1/4, and this I did a few nights ago, a couple of nights, yesterday, and then I had to take the screen down, and then everything was all offline, so I could look at that with no smoothing, and it looks like so, and then go to 1/4, and it goes like so, and then go to 1/24th, and it gets a bit smoother. 1/12th, a bit more smoother, obviously with dips and humps, and 1/6th, typically 1/3. Looks too perfect almost. 1/12, 1/2 octave, and 1 octave smoothing, and looks like so. And then you got a little washer here to move, and so obviously if I put it up here, it's higher peak around about near the 3 kilohertz range. So maybe if I wanted to dip it down and such and increase, I can improve the clarity so it doesn't sound too harsh. As it is at the moment, I'm not having any I'm not really displeased or anything. I'm pleased. Whereas with the JBL 2371, occasionally I would have to put quite a bit of filtering in to try and shape the, because I like that tone, that sound that cinema HF horns produce behind the screen, which is what I'm pretty commonly associated with growing up over the years and hearing movies and then working in the cinema, and that's what they use. That's what they use in dubbing theatres and such. It's not what they typically use in homes. And some people don't like HF horns. They find them too harsh and all that, but I ain't finding that sort of problem. If I did, I wouldn't be using them. I find that the mid-range that they produce to some of the high range that they produce is satisfactory through one speaker, rather than having a bass driver, a mid-range and a high range behind a cinema screen, which they usually do with horns, mid-range horns and high-range horns, and I'm not very keen on that after hearing how it sounded at the Empire Leicester Square on the old on its 56 kilowatt system years ago, before it got turned into a Limax. God. But it just didn't sound good. And the original THX sound system at Empire, the 89 THX sound system, but that used just the HF horns behind the screen, big 3-footers, and with the bass drivers and for the screen channels and all, and the sub, they sounded brilliant. It never what hurt my ears. It was loud and exciting, but not loud or overbearing and harsh, and where you had to cover your ears. I never once had to cover my ears. Not on something that's bound to how it's tuned and engineered. I think the 56 kilowatt of the Empire was just thumbs down. Every time I went and saw a film there, I just had to cover my ears. Anyway, I hopefully won't have to do it with these, because they almost use a similar component, similar to the JBL 2360, the HF horn. There's only slight characteristic difference between the JBL 2345 and the 46. Anyway.